Okay, so we've just finished up with being able to multiply two radicals, and now we're going to do something that's very similar but a little different. We're going to multiply two radicals together that have numbers on the outside of the radicals. Well, this essentially is just 3 times radical 8 times 2 times radical 5. So, just like we've done a lot of times, I'm going to reorganize this problem to make it easier. So I'm going to bring the 2 and 3 together, which will give me 6. And then I'm going to bring the 8 and the 5 together, which will give me radical 40. So now I have 6 radical 40. And again, radical 40 could be a little bit simpler. And so I look up over here again at this side to decide which of my square roots would fit into radical 40. And the square roots that are going to fit into radical 40 are radical 4 times radical 10. So now I have 6 radical 4 times radical 10. Well, radical 4 is really just 2. So I have 6 times 2 times radical 10, which is the same thing as 12 radical 10. And that's as simple as this problem can get. So I finally found my radical. Okay, so in this next problem, I have 12 radical 3 times 5 radical 15. And again, I'm going to take my whole numbers and multiply them. And I'm going to take my radicals and I'm going to multiply them. So 12 times 5 will give me 60. And radical 3 times 15 is going to give me radical 75. So now, like in the previous example, I'm going to look for which radical or which perfect square will fit into 75. And the perfect square that will fit into 75, if you remember in the last video, is radical 25 times radical 3. So radical 25 will simplify to become 5, so I'll have 60 times 5 times radical 3. And this should give me 300 radical 3. And since radical 3 is as simple as it can get, I have my final answer as 300 radical 3. Okay, in this last example, the main difference is you have parentheses. Now, don't worry about the parentheses because the parentheses are just telling you you're going to multiply since this is pressed up against this other side. The only reason the parentheses are there is because this negative number, it's hard to see if that's negative or subtracting without those parentheses. So we're going to do the exact same steps. We're going to take that whole number, negative 2, and times it by this whole number 5. 5 times negative 2 will give me negative 10. Then I'll have 18 times 8, which should give me 144. And I actually know the square root of 144. It is 12. So I'll have negative 10 times 12. And negative 10 times 12 gives me negative 120. And since I have no square roots, that has to be the simplest answer I can get.